This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
So biohacking is the new punk. What's going on with this? Tim Alberino, Darrin Geisinger. I would have had it.
You got it.
Those are our special guests today for Into the Multiverse. It's weird hosting it from this side of the table. You've never been in the host chair before.
I have never been in the host chair.
How does it feel?
Powerful.
It doesn't feel like anything, Josh. There's nothing special about sitting in the host. I'm quite disappointed.
It's numbing.
Why do you think I'm sitting over here?
It's a numbing feeling. Yeah, he switched.
So this biohacking thing, there are people in the world, I think most of the country is oblivious that this is even a thing now. You can buy a kit that you can actually edit your own genes. You guys have looked
CRISPR-Cas9 kit.
Yeah, you guys have now looked into this more than I have, but though I'm in active research now. This blows my mind that it's already here, because just a couple years ago we were saying it's coming. Now it's actually here.
With less than $1,000, you can edit your own genome.
And people are actually doing this.
Yes, and these are non-lettered people. In other words, these are people who don't have degrees, a lot of them. Some of them do in the community, but they're citizen scientists. It's a global network of individuals who are using the power of CRISPR-Cas9 technology to modify their pets, to genetically modify their pets. It's very interesting, actually. There's a lot of glow-in-the-dark pets showing up.
Literally.
Modify their pets, modify medicine. It's called personalized medicine. So they'll make their own EpiPens. They'll make medicines that are custom designed for their own biology, and they're genetically modifying their own biology. There's all kinds of people who have already increased their strength.
How are they learning how to do this?
So one guy gave himself night vision.
Really? Like legitimately he's got night vision now?
Yes, he had an injection done into his eyes.
Oh.
Something genetic was done to give him night vision, a night vision capability.
And you said super strength, so there's somebody that actually has increased...
There's an individual who has genetically altered his muscle composition, so that his muscles are, I believe, longer and denser. And this is happening, and this is the important thing. The biohacking community, this is happening in the garages, in the basements, in the living rooms of people's homes.
Totally unregulated.
And why I say and it's the important thing is because it's out of the lab and into the home, out of the lab and into the garage. In other words, out of the corporate control system and out of the governmental control system and into people's garages.
Wow.
And there's a growing community of dog breeders that are already editing out the genetic diseases in their pets and in the dogs that they breed, and it's happening at such a rapid pace. I mean, it's changing every few months. They're making advances, and the reason why this is happening is because what this is essentially is cloud-sourced genetic engineering. A lot of people are familiar now with crowdfunding, crowd-funded projects or crowdsourced projects on the internet, where you get a bunch of minds together and you put them together for a project. That's crowdsourcing a project, as opposed to one or two people racking their brains on something. You tap into the power of the collective. Well, that's happening on the level of genetic engineering, where people are coming up with these genetic concoctions, uploading the data to the internet, to the community at large, and it's accelerating the progression.
So that's how they're learning how to do this.
Of genetic engineering, upgrading basically the schematics of how to do certain things. It's like those who are familiar with the video game community. There's a community of modders. We're called modders in the video game arena, who take games and modify the games.
Yeah.
And then they share their mods with other people who have the game, who can then download their mod and install it into their game.
Sure.
That's what's happening on the engineering level in terms of genetics, the genomic technologies, the recipes, if you will, of the mods are being uploaded, and the information is being shared with the community, the biohacking community at large. And
that's insane. I'm usually more of a limited government kind of guy, but it's stuff like this that kind of makes me start to see aspects of the other side. What happens when these people who are doing this have their own kids? Does that get passed down?
It depends on what they're doing. I don't know. It's limited right now.
Right.
The CRISPR-Cas9 kits that are being sold on the internet in the biohacking community. You don't have to apply with the university or with the government to get these. You can literally go on the biohacking websites, and there's several of them.
And it's totally legal. And
yeah, you can go buy it right now. You can go buy a CRISPR-Cas9 kit.
Tom has one.
For example, you can buy a CRISPR-Cas9 kit right now to brew glow-in-the-dark beer right now. Or to do other things. It's limited in scope at this point. So the concern for somebody to engineer to be able to engineer a new kind of pathogen is unlikely at this point. But as the technology expands, and it is already, it could get quite dangerous. But the same thing can be said for robotics. The same thing can be said for nanotechnology, and yet we're forging ahead with all of these technologies. So, but it's dangerous because some of the modifications that are going to be coming online and possibly are already available within the biohacking community will have inheritable ramifications.
Right.
It's germline genetic engineering, or there's certain kinds of traits that you can modify, certain kinds of genes that will be inheritable. At least at this stage in animals, in dogs, for example, very popular among dog breeders now to looking at the biohacking community for fixes to their pets. This is becoming more and more mainstream. It's really not mainstream, it's underground, but it's becoming more widespread.
But prepping for that, has superheroes and mutants ever been more popular in cinema and TV? It's almost like the youth of today are programmed to see all of that and just assume that's where we're all headed. Anybody who's popular or exciting or successful in TV or movies has had some modification of some feature to give them power.
That's insane. I remember when I was in high school, the big thing, to be cool or popular is if you got an earring or something, and I
now it's night vision.
Yeah, can you imagine how tempting that would be? Because I remember I pierced my own ear in high school, hoping that it would give me some popularity, which it didn't. It was a total fail. But can you imagine how tempting that's going to be for kids who are already smart and ostracized because they're nerds? If they think, well, shoot,
I can go to the club glow in the dark. I can go to the nightclub and glow.
Yeah. They're putting implants too in their bodies, so it doesn't. The biohacking community isn't just genetics. It's basically utilizing the GRIN technologies.
Right.
In their developmental progression as they stand now. In other words, the genetics, robotics, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology. And so there's a lot of genetic biohackers. And again, a lot of them are not university trained. They're autodidactic. They learned on the internet.
Yeah.
Just like I said, the reference to modifying games. Just like a lot of people have learned to they can almost make a game because they've learned on the internet how to modify. And so the genetic level of it is that's one aspect. But the other aspect is the cybernetic level. Of course, we know there's all kinds of people now who are inserting RFID chips into their fingers or into their hands to be able to access their car door or the door to their home or the door to their office without having to reach for keys. That's a thing now. And they're trying it with tattoos and stuff like that, but a lot of people are just getting the chip injected, RFID chip. That's a very simple level of biohacking that's becoming very popular. And it's not necessarily even that it's merchandise right now. It's here's the schematics of how to do this. And they go and do it themselves. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to get to a level where these guys are going to start making modifications that will begin to affect the brain activity. And things of this nature that will give them an edge in certain realms. Like you said, what was cool before was an earring or whatever that distinguished you. But now if you're an individual who has taken time to understand the way the technology works and you and you give yourself
night vision,
or you put a chip in your brain that allows that increases the efficiency of your neurons or something like that, which isn't far off.
Even just being connected to the internet.
Just being connected to the internet, something like that, something that can interface with your brain. Which is going to come out as legitimate merchandise in the future, but it's gonna develop quicker in the biohacking community. Some of these guys have already given themselves magnetic properties by inserting certain things into their body, so where their fingers are magnetic, they can pick stuff up with their fingers.
Yeah, I've seen that.
and
where is the fear in doing all that? The polls on this are fascinating to me. That well over 60% of under 30 want upgrades.
Yeah.
Chip me, upgrade me. They want
make it a little easier for me to pick up a paperclip.
Yes.
And there's
if I can just go like this instead of this.
even unimpressive. Thank you. I needed that pen too.
I know.
I'm making notes somewhere.
Well, if you were only magnetic, you could have pulled it across.
Even insignificant superpowers are still superpowers.
Yeah.
And so magnetic fingers would have been pretty cool in high school.
How would you type on a computer? It seems like it would just fry the...
I don't know. I don't know what the practical purpose for magnetic fingers are, but the point is that these are, and this is why it's the punk. It's like a punk movement. It is a counterculture.
Yeah.
It's a revolution.
And it appeals to younger people.
And what they're trying to do is to induce a revolution, a genetic revolution, a biohacking revolution, a cybernetic revolution, to get the technologies out of the labs and into the homes.
Wow.
On one sense, I can't help but admire that.
Well, sure.
But on the other hand, it's exceedingly dangerous and stupid on many levels. Because it's cool to glow in the dark, but the negative side of what kind of mutations might occur, because you didn't really understand this aspect of it, and so there's a new kind of cancer suddenly, or some kind of other disease,
and it hasn't been long enough to see what those effects might be.
You are the test. You become the subject of a test that has never before been executed. So
that's insane.
What about the scripture that said that Noah was just a man and perfect in his generations?
Yeah.
How does that factor in? I mean,
right. Well, when you look in the Hebrew, it's not even just morality, but it's genetic as well. When you look in the Bible, it seems like something similar. Maybe
all
not
flesh,
by
all flesh became corrupted.
Yeah.
And it's just another accelerating factor in the hybrid age, in the impending hybrid age that's coming. And this is one way that genetic engineering is being accelerated on a grassroots level. It's not just unfolding in the corporate labs or in the government labs. Now it's unfolding in the garage and basement of your neighbor's house.
It's crazy. And we're going to be the old guys trying to make the kids stop having fun. That's our role in all of this. It's crazy to think about. Well, you bring up the hybrid age. I think that's a good segue into the 2018 True Legends Conference.
Yes, right. This subject matter is right in right into the theme of our upcoming conference.
Tell us all about it.
Our conference, the 2017 conference, was a great success. People were extremely excited about it and wanted us to do another conference. And so Steve and I decided we will do another conference in 2018. We talked to Tom, and to our great delight and satisfaction, Tom decided that he was going to be a part of the conference.
That must have taken some convincing, because he's going to be speaking,
Well,
isn't he?
what did it for Tom was we decided that we wanted to talk about transhumanism and those kind of topics, and Tom's been leading the charge on that for years. And so Tom, when Tom knew that was our direction, he was all in.
That's awesome.
And Tom's the guy we wanted the most. For this conference to come back and do the conference with us, and so. We're going to be talking about transhumanism and the hybrid age at this conference. Last year's conference was kind of, it sort of revolved around the Genesis 6 affair, the Watchers, and all of that. This year, we are going to really get deep into the implications of transhumanism and the implications of the hybrid age. In fact, we're going to be inviting some people to our conference to speak. We've got some invitations out there now. We've heard back from some people. We're trying to reach into the secular arena, into some of the leading minds in transhumanism. in artificial intelligence, in robotics, and actually get them to our conference. And they may have opposing opinions. They probably will. These are not Christian people for the most part, but
we don't have to be threatened by that.
We're not threatened by it. And it's the reality of what's going on in the world. And so we're really excited about having these people at our conference. And we can't say who they are yet, but we will be. I will be speaking at the conference. Steve Quayle will be speaking at the conference. Tom Horn will be speaking at the conference. But we haven't really decided yet who the rest of the roster will be. Definitely some of you guys from Skywatch will be speaking at the conference.
But just having Steve Quayle and Tom Horn back together again for maybe the last time. We thought maybe it was last year, but one more shot. That alone is enough incentive, I think, that it's gonna sell out again. And I think Tim was probably going to touch on this, but all 3,000 seats at the theater mansion in Branson were sold out. So what we're hearing is do not wait until summer.
Right.
If you think you can wait until summer to sign up, that you're going to miss it, and don't miss it. So,
you're coordinating this whole thing, aren't you?
Yes, I am conference coordinator.
Good job.
I'm thrilled to be on board, and my wife Nicole will be helping that. But we are going to be the conference coordinator. So
fantastic.
We're thrilled and challenged.
Well, where can people go to register?
Gen6.com. GENSIX.com.
Yeah.
And the last conference, True Legends, the conference 2017, sold out in 3 months.
Right.
So, which is kind of unprecedented for these kind of conferences.
Especially being the very first one, totally untested. This is the first True Legends conference.
In a massive theater, like the Mansion Theater in Branson. By the way, where it's taking place is the Mansion Theater in Branson, just like last year.
Awesome.
It's taking place roughly almost identically the same time frame, off by a couple of days. The doors open for registration on the 13th
of September,
of September, and the conference runs through that Sunday, the 16th. So. The 13th through the 16th of September 2018, it will be epic.
Yes. Well, I know the first one definitely was. I said before I was only able to make it for about an hour or so, and actually,
that's because we locked Josh Peck out of the facility.
Well, I was able to.
He got in. He climbed in through the window.
I was able to build a portal, but really, that's why I tell people. But in reality, I opened a window. It's still a portal, but
strictly speaking,
but I was able to get around for about an hour before I was discovered and thrown out. So I was pretty proud of that.
It's heavy security. Be on the lookout for Josh.
Yeah, you'll have to up the security this time. But no, it was a blast. I personally love that it's in Branson because that's basically next door to us here.
Yeah.
It only takes about half an hour to get there, but even in just that hour, just the feeling going in, it was electric. It was, well, like you said, it was epic. Everybody was having a great time. There's just really no words. Anything I say is going to diminish it. Of course, everybody had a good time, but there was something about it that was extra special.
It felt like it was more than a conference.
Yeah, because we've done like a million of these. We do these all the time, and usually, they're always good. We always have fun and stuff. But there was something really special about that one, and I think if the conferences are anything like the True Legends films, I think the next one's going to be even better.
That's the purpose of the films. The operative word for the films at Gen 6 Productions is epic.
Yes.
The operative word for the Gen 6 expeditions and seminars that we do is epic. The operative word for the Gen 6 conference, epic.
That's right.
That's what we're going for, epic.
I can totally see that. There is no other word for it. Well, we have some viewer questions, and actually, if you at home follow me on Facebook, it's just Josh Peck. You'll see my picture. Sometimes when we do these interviews, we like to open it up to you guys at home to ask some questions, and we got so many the last time you were here, Tim, when we did all those viewer questions. We got so many that I saved some of them.
Confused everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, who is this guy? That was the main question.
Who is this guy? What's the point? But
that was a real question.
Yeah, we got so many questions that I wanted to save some of them so we could do some more. And these are open for you too, Darrin, because I know both of you guys have done a lot of similar research. So feel free to jump in. We'll start with Paige here. If Atlantis truly exists, how much of the legend/myth surrounding it do you believe to be truth?
I believe that the basic schematics of the story are true.
Okay.
In other words, the outline of the story is true. The details are not.
All right.
So, especially if we're referring to Plato's rendition of Atlantis, what we might call the historical rendition of Atlantis, in which Poseidon came and to the island that was allotted to him, which was Atlantis, the realm that was allotted to Poseidon. The gods divided the realms among themselves. Poseidon, for his lot, received what he called Atlantis. It was an island, and then he built a city called Atlantis within the island. And he took to wife a human woman. She gave birth to 10 sons. There were 5 pairs of twins, male sons, and according to some of the Eastern traditions, which Blavatsky recorded in her book, The Secret Doctrine, they were giants. And the reason why I reference that is because that was supposedly came from the Eastern tradition, that the sons of Poseidon were giants, and that they ruled over a domain of 7 realms. So the outline of the story, in my opinion, is true. I believe that it is an allegory of the pre-flood age in general. The gods taking to wife human women, giving birth to the demigods, the Herculean type entities, and Atlantis was destroyed it sank. It just was basically destroyed in a flood.
Right.
So that there again is the allegory of the antediluvian age. However, I do believe that one of the gods, one of the watchers, is represented specifically in Poseidon.
Okay.
And that there was a city within that god's realm. When I say God, I'm referencing the watchers. The historical situation, which was the Genesis 6 affairs. The watcher, one of the watchers, had a Atlantean type realm, and that story is indeed based on a city and on a scenario that is a lot of the elements of the real historical scenario are represented in the narrative of Atlantis, and that the story itself is an allegory of the pre-flood world in general. So that's as much as I can say on it because nobody knows for sure, but it certainly is an allegory of the pre-flood world, and I believe it was an actual city.
Okay, makes sense.
But not necessarily exactly as Plato had it.
Cool. Anything that you wanted to add? Or?
Well, Tim and I, before Tim's YouTube channel was ripped down, our next slotted show was going to be called The Exiles of Atlantis.
Oh,
so
man.
I was that was the one next on the docket, and that would refer to the possibility or the idea that Atlantis was high technology. Tim could speak to this more if he wants to chime in, but that possibly before the Great Flood came, the most elite of that actually escaped off-world and some sort of craft before the flood hit, and that might be the source of some of the things that are zipping around that are very humanoid in appearance. Tim, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, I think I think people are well aware of that contingency that I formulated, at least my own version of it, in that the escapees of Atlantis, which would reference the escapees of the pre-flood world in general, is what that means, not just of the city of Atlantis. The exiles of Atlantis references all of the entities that were existent that may have escaped. And I say may have escaped. I don't know. Certainly a possibility.
The scriptures say that the flood destroyed everything God had made.
Right.
So if maybe there was something that God hadn't made that was outside of his creation.
Yeah, it's a nuance.
It's a nuance of scripture, and it's just for throwing around ideas. But
interesting. Well, I hope you guys still make that video because I'd like to watch it.
Send a letter to Google.
Shoot, if you make it, I'll host it on my channel. I'd host it here. Well, you got Steve Quayle. What about on the Gen 6 channel?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's when I say that my YouTube channel was taken down.
It was your personal.
People say, well, no, it wasn't. It was still there. Paradoxically, the Gen 6 channel, they didn't take that down. They just took
weird.
my personal channel down.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. So I'm still doing stuff
they
on the
obviously
Gen 6
feel
channel.
that there should be less Timothy Alberino on the internet.
And I don't
in general,
necessarily disagree with that. But,
well, I'll disagree with it for you. All right. Next, we have Anne. This is a series of questions, so I'll read them out, and then you can just pick and choose whatever you'd like. Do you think there are giants in stasis and pods in Antarctica? Do you truly think / believe there are giants or Nephilim in the Antarctic? What about reptilians in Antarctica? Tell us what you know about why or how all these pyramids are connected. Ley lines?
We don't know anything about Antarctica. All we can do is speculate. We do know the Nazis were there.
Right.
And that they had a base there. And I believe that the testimony of Admiral Byrd was true, that they were attacked by flying saucers.
Yeah.
Probably Nazi technology.
Yeah.
And derived from non-human technology. But I don't personally buy into the Admiral Byrd diary stuff. It sounds too fanciful for me, like him seeing the mammoths and so forth.
Right.
It sounds like science fiction to me. But in regards to are there giants there? I don't know. I'm persuaded that there is the remnants of an ancient civilization there.
Okay.
Or the entryway into that civilization.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
And then what was the other part of the question?
Reptilians. Something about reptilians?
Yeah.
Bipedal reptoids.
What about reptilians and Antarctica? And then something about how the pyramids are connected, or is it ley lines or something like that?
I don't know. The reptilian faction, in my opinion, absolutely exists. And I'm not the kind of guy that will ever try and spiritualize everything to make it all a phenomenon of demons and evil spirits. I think there are an assortment of living biological things, sentient things, that we have been interacting with the human race for a very long time, especially the occult faction, occultic factions within the human race, such as the Nazi regime, who were actively looking for the Vril.
Yeah.
And wanted to make contact with the Vril, and I think probably did. It's at least whatever the Vril are. By the way, little side note here, you can jump in whenever you want, because I'm sure the Anselm P. Rambla, and we could do a whole show on this.
Yeah.
Anselm P. Rambla, long story short, and this ties into Antarctica, was being trained, and those who are familiar with my work know who Anselm P. Rambla is, a Spanish explorer, a good friend of mine. He was being trained a long time ago when he was a young man by one of the lamas in Tibet. There are several lamas. The Dalai Lama, there's a political face who we call the Dalai Lama. He's the guy out there that's doing the political stuff. But there are other lamas in the background that are equal in terms of authority with him in Tibet. Anselm was being trained by one of those guys. He was drafted, he was recruited by one of these guys. He was in Tibet, living with the monks. And Anselm's desire was to gain access to Shambhala, which is, of course, the underground civilization that supposedly the lamas and the Tibetan monks know how to enter this realm and are in contact with the entities that inhabit that realm, who most people who are familiar with this view as sort of ascended entities, a race of ascended beings that the lamas are in contact with. Well, that's part true. There are a race of entities with whom the lamas and the Tibetans are in contact with, but they're not good. And Anselm went into this believing they were. And as he got closer and closer to the truth concerning who the Tibetans were in contact with, he became increasingly convinced that whoever these entities were, they were not good. And he found out through a series of experiences that, and again, he was wanting them to be good. He wanted to enter the famous Shambhala, and they assured him, the lamas assured him, and the monks assured him, Shambhala exists, but you're not ready to go there yet. So in order to prepare yourself, you have to go through this rigorous training, which he began. But suddenly he found out that the lamas and that priesthood was connected with an entity who is referred to as the king of the earth, and that this entity, he told me there are both humans down there and also non-human entities, and they are extremely diabolical. Again, this is coming from a man who was desirous of seeing Shambhala, believed in the whole, the lamas are ascended and they're connected with these. He went into this with that perspective, and was shocked to find out that it was the opposite. And he took off. I mean, he aborted the mission.
Wow.
Because it was shocking, the information, and he realized. So those people out there who think that the Tibetan monks are in contact with some benevolent force and some benevolent race. It's literally the opposite. Yes, they are in contact, the non-human race, but it is not a benevolent race.
And Anselm P. Rambla's talk is on the True Legends 2017 set of DVDs. So if anybody wants to see the conference, they can see Anselm's talk, which, Tim, you did a great job translating for him in Spanish. But I do think it's interesting.
You don't really know that unless you speak Spanish. Maybe I didn't.
You were a little worried about where his talk was going to go, because Anselm was kind of deluded, or we believe deluded, into thinking these beings were benevolent when they're not at all. And to tie that back to what you were saying before about the Antarctic, is that the Tibetan monks is supposedly the source in which Hitler made contact with the entities of where he got the saucer technology. So the monks there have been in contact with these entities for as long as time, and he went to that source, and then that's where Hitler then made contact with these other entities to get the saucer technology.
Yeah, so I do believe that the Tibetan monks are in possession of knowledge and are in contact with a race of entities living under the ground, and I believe that there is another faction beneath the ice in Antarctica. So I have no qualms about the idea that the Earth is inhabited by more than human beings.
Yeah.
And that giants are one faction.
Right.
And that beneath the ice in Antarctica, I believe that the Nazis were in contact with a race, and that with a non-human race, and that at this point in time, the United States government, along with other governments, have been slowly excavating, exploring, who knows? But there's definitely artifacts of extreme archaeological significance under the ice in Antarctica. That I can say.
Interesting. All right, well, we probably got time for one more before we'll have to move on to other things throughout our day today. Let's see, next in line. Oh, well, we were actually kind of talking about this before the show. Okay, so Debbie asks, is there any elongated human skulls found in Egypt? If so, would they have been related to the ones in South America? Are any of these related to Tutankhamun or Nefertiti? Would any of these artifacts be in Antarctica? So another
well,
thing
let's make a distinction right away between cranial deformation and what appears to be a genetic alteration, or at least a divergent species of humanoid.
Right.
Those are two very different things.
Okay.
One of those things is inherently genetic. The other is a result of manipulated deformation of the human skull. Both of those things, in my opinion, are realities. Marsuli, L.A. Marsuli is doing fantastic work in this realm.
Sure, yeah.
And is getting the genetic testing done on some of the elongated skulls from Peru. And I can say with certainty that elongated skulls are all over the earth. They're in Russia, they're in Egypt, they're in China, they've been discovered in the United States, certainly in Peru, especially in the Paracas area. And they're also in Bolivia, in the region of in the ruins of Tiwanaku. Elongated skulls were discovered. Some of these elongated skulls are cranial deformation because for centuries, in the ancient world, I should say for eons, the people have been wanting to emulate the offspring of the gods and the gods themselves. So it is apparent to me that there must have been a hybrid race, or who knows what kind of a race on the earth, that inherently, genetically, had an elongated skull. And that perhaps some of these elongated skulls that we find today belonged to that alternative human race, to that hybridized or whatever it might be, human race, alternate human race. And I say alternate human race because all the other features seem to be human, except for we have these strange elongated skulls, which are not just elongated. When a skull is deformed, when headboarding is employed to shape a skull, you don't get more mass,
right,
and you don't get more cranial capacity.
Right.
the interior of the skull does not get bigger.
Right.
Just like the exterior doesn't get bigger. It's like taking a piece of Play-Doh and molding it. By molding it, you don't increase the mass.
Right.
You just work with what you have.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that out there. That's emulation.
Yeah.
And it's worldwide, which tells you that this is a phenomena hearkening back to the ancient times. Possibly into a pre-flood context or just back into a Sumerian Tower of Babel context.
Yeah.
But probably going back into a pre-flood context, they were wanting to emulate this alternative species. Or this alternative species is the genetic residue of some other pre-flood thing, whether it be a hybrid or whatever. I don't like to use the term Nephilim because it's too broad.
Right.
And it's starting to lose its meaning.
Yeah.
But some kind of a hybrid entity that has its roots in the pre-flood world. And but there's also indications that this race, who Karen Hudes came out, she was a whistleblower at the World Bank and a credible whistleblower at the World Bank, was proven that her allegations were proven to be true. She's not just out there making up lies.
Right.
And we're talking the World Bank. It's a very powerful institution. She blew the whistle on it and took a lot of heat because of it. But she came out and with another astounding revelation. We don't know whether it's true or not. There's no proof. That she discovered that there was a group of humanoids that were running the global financial system, that they had elongated skulls, and that they were referred to as Homo capensis, and that their race was populous in the earth. It died off at some point, not in the very distant past, and she attributes it to Ice Age and so forth, but there's also indication that the elongated skull race was around just a few hundred, maybe 500-600 years ago in some parts of the earth. And so, and it's a divergence. It's a genetic divergence from the human species. So it's very likely not a totally separate race. It's a modified race of humanoids.
And something just occurred to me. Now, this could have been said before, so I'm not sure if this is an idea that's been floated out there. But when the parents would emulate this and cradleboard to pay homage, if this was a recessive gene that only showed up very randomly as that race died out or whatever, I wonder if there was some sort of privilege that came for children who showed that. And so the parents wanting them to maybe be whisked off by the royalty of the region or something would try to do that, to try to claim that their child was one of those,
or at least it's had the appearance of high society,
right,
by the shape of their skull, emulating the offspring of the gods.
Right.
They might even have been ancient biohackers.
And actually, that's very possible. Of course, in a different sense, it would look different than it does today.
Sure.
And that's the thing. The ancient technology, when we talk about antediluvian technology, you can't think laptops, iPhones. It's a different kind of technology. It's a higher form of technology that was being used in the past. And but to finish the Karen Hudes, again, we don't know whether or not Karen Hudes is telling the truth pertaining to the World Bank. Yes, that's been confirmed. But pertaining to Homo capensis and the elongated skull race, who knows? However, she alleges that this race is still alive. She says that they're in the Vatican.
And they're in positions of authority.
They're in positions of authority. They're running the global banking system. They're at the Vatican and are being hidden in the Vatican and are a divergent species of human being. And so this is what Karen Hudes has alleged. I don't know if that allegation is true. I don't know. I can only say that she was right about the World Bank. And I do believe that perhaps, I don't know what the ratio would be. I don't know if it would be half of the skulls that have been discovered around the earth, elongated skulls, if half of them are a result of a genetic alteration, or are they cradleboarding?
Right.
That would require a scientific investigation, but certainly the ones that L.A. Marsuli is doing testing on, or I believe are going to, and I believe are showing a genetic divergence, genetic anomalies that are uncommon to the human race.
And as I understand it, the World Bank took Karen Hudes back in, and so
Process your request.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tim's watch is talking to me. I think it's telling me to shut up.
My watch randomly records me all the time.
Right.
My phone did too, and so
Right.
captured live on here on the Multiverse.
It's the government.
We can change subjects now, but I just think that the World Bank took Karen Hudes back in, and so instead of claiming she was crazy and then trying to put a smear campaign against her, to take her back in almost appeared to me as a way to quiet her. Like, whoa, she's not going to leave anything off the table. She's going to talk about something as crazy as
That's
that.
very possible.
Let's get her back in here and give her whatever she wants.
Well, it's definitely an interesting subject, and apparently the CIA is telling us that we need to wrap it up. But
Oh yeah, it's like Tim's watch just said the time for the show to end.
You have captured on the Multiverse a situation that's been happening to me. I swear, all my devices listen to me all the time. They just the voice activation thing always gets and it's usually when we're talking about something very strange. If Steve and I are having a conversation, suddenly I'll notice that my phone starts to record me or my watch, which is a phone. So there you have it.
That's crazy. Has not happened a single time to me, but maybe I'm not as interesting. Who knows?
Don't say that, Josh. Don't say that.
Thanks, Darrin.
All right.
Thanks, Darrin, and only Darrin.
You're
I see who my true friends are.
I'll stick with you.
You're going to be seeing a lot of Darrin Geisinger in the Multiverse.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming back on the show, Tim, Tim Alberino, Darrin Geisinger, and for all of you at home, follow me on Facebook. We'll do some more of these viewer questions, and make sure you go to skywatchtv.store.com to get some of the products that we have available there, and also go to gen6.com to register for the conference. Make sure you do it early because it's going to sell out very quickly. Guys, thanks again for being on the show. It's been a blast.
Yep, thanks for having us.
All right, and thank you all. Until next time, take care and God bless.
The entire 2017 True Legends Conference is now available in an incredible 10-volume DVD collection, and Skywatch TV wants to help you save big with an incredible offer. We proudly announce the True Legends Conference Special. This amazing series of 2017 presentations includes shocking new evidence about biblical giants, fallen angels, ancient civilizations, the last days, and features unbelievable speakers like Dr. Thomas Horn, Steve Quayle, Timothy Alberino, Derek Gilbert, Dr. Michael Lake, David Langford, Henry Groover, and more. When you purchase this amazing 10-volume DVD collection from Skywatch TV, you'll also receive the incredible book, Unearthing the Lost World of the Cloud Eaters. Walk with legendary authors Stephen Quayle and Dr. Thomas Horn as they meet secretly with the leaders of the Hopi, Zuni, and Uti Nation tribes to learn about the pre-flood architecture of the giant kings. Learn why the ancient Anasazi disappeared overnight, who the dragon-worshipping giant invaders of early America were, and how they taught the natives ritual cannibalism to change their DNA into fit extensions for the spirits of dead giants. But that's not all. You'll also receive Derek P. Gilbert's The Great Inception. In this phenomenal book, you'll learn the startling connection between the mythological Titans, the biblical Nephilim, and the Canaanites, the true identities of Satan and Apollyon, why the Red Sea crossing was a literal battle between God and Baal, and so much more. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of $160. Yours now for only $119 plus shipping and handling. So don't miss your chance to relive all of the 2017 True Legends Conference presentations now on DVD. Order this incredible offer while supplies last. The True Legends Conference Special available at the Skywatch TV store. Order online or call 844-750-4985.